So, the Joker. I feel like enough time has passed in the pop cultural memory for us to talk about it. And like everybody
It's
these
gotten
days,
nice and cold.
yeah,
Perfect
and everyone
time to pick up those leftovers and eat them.
exactly. And everyone has a gold fish memory these days anyway because of like internet like idiocy or whatever. So like, why not talk about it now? We all have various hot takes on Todd Phillips' Joker. I think that it is rife with archetypical meaning and imagery and significance. Peter just thinks that it's like the greatest movie ever made and that anyone who says anything bad about it should fucking go to the gulag.
Obviously.
Jake believes
that sounds like a type of opinion I would have, yeah.
Jake believes that he is the Joker because, you know, alienated white man.
Not at all. No.
Bad things.
No.
I am absolutely the Joker, 100%.
It explains all of the dancing. I'll say that.
Yeah, it does. It does. I'm going to be the Joker in my next video and I'm going to be doing the whole dance and everything. So we're like scouting out stairs.
I'll bet people are really going to like go like, wow, this is so timely.
No,
I don't know how she does it.
They're going to say it's stunning and brave, Angie.
Holy shit, this is a current events video.
I want it to be like a stunning, brave, we live in a society kind of like vibe. That's what I want. I want all of that.
So like, I thought that there was like an interesting parallel between the Joker and the Truman Show in the way that it's kind of like parallels but also reverse at the same time, where like Truman obviously kind of starts to think that everyone's watching him, and that I guess that's actually kind of a parallel as well, and he kind of has this paranoia about it, but that actual fact kind of makes the Joker who he is. Like as he even says in the film, like he feels like he was invisible, and then he starts doing all this stuff. And then all this, everybody starts talking about the stuff that he's doing. Like even this weird, obscure fucking stand-up comedy set he'd like completely obviously fucking failed at, then gets mentioned on the version of The Tonight Show in Gotham. And like, so everyone's like talking about all these acts that he's done. So he starts to feel like the world is finally actually like looking at him and like replicating him or whatever. Whereas the Truman Show, it was kind of more about like discovering that truth through the like series of discovering that people were seeing him. And I guess it's the same in the Joker, where like it creates him as the end, as the Joker, from the experience of all of society seeing all of the acts that he does and reacting to it. So yeah, that was my little insight.
I think that's a really interesting insight, like big time. I never really thought about the parallels between that and the Truman Show.
There's also kind of, you know, I think it was at the late 90s, the internet and stuff, there's sort of a bit of a paranoia around, you know, who is what Big Brother, who's watching you, and, you know, the amount of information that you're giving out and that kind of thing with this new god-fangled thing called the internet. And whereas now, you know, it's the different kind of paranoia around society.
Or am I wrong? Is that wrong?
No, Al Gore did not invent the internet. That was,
shit.
He did it on his own one night in the basement. He was like, I'm so bored.
But
I wish I could just like connect to other people via telephone apparatus.
Oh, cool.
but
But
like,
not necessarily, you know, using a phone. I want to transmit data back and forth rather than voice.
yeah, but then obviously the paranoia of
just
like today,
not entertaining that.
the paranoia of today being about literally like the breakdown of society and the division that we all have and the politicization of everything and how this person seems to reject all of that, but all of that sort of action around it still evokes all of this reaction in society and stuff. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, allow me to give my Jordan Peterson-esque Jungian analysis of the film. I wish I could do the voice, but I can't. But I was thinking about consider the lobster. I can't do it. I just
Consider the Joker.
Consider the Joker. Like literally, I feel like the film is about I feel like it's about the genesis of a meme and how a god or devil is born, basically. And I feel like all of the events of the film basically sort of show the genesis of how something invades the collective unconscious through the unconscious of an individual. And like I was just talking to Peter before we started recording about how it's sort of the perfect thesis and antithesis, which is usually what either gods or memes are constructed of. They're usually this sort of coincidence between opposites in a way that is very sort of present. Like in the Christ figure, for instance, you have human but God coexisting in the same sort of body, and you can say that with a lot of other sort of religious and mythological figures. And Arthur Fleck, in that regard, embodies that thesis and antithesis, because he's sort of an incel kind of like alienated white male that goes rogue, who ends up being the forefront figurehead of this sort of Occupy Wall Street / anti-elitist movement. And I think that that's why the liberal left was so triggered by the film, because it represented this contradiction. And I think that he also represents what happens when class is pushed into the unconscious. And it's interesting to me that last year 3 films came out that sort of embodied that. There was Us by Jordan Peterson, Parasite.
Jordan Peterson.
Sorry, not Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele.
Kean Peterson.
Kean Peterson. That'd
My
be
favorite
hilarious.
comedy
I would
duo.
watch that show. I would watch that.
I would
watch
do that. Would be the best fucking
It'd be
thing.
so good. So there was Us by Jordan Peele, and there was also this movie Joker, and then there was also Parasite, which sort of it was all kind of this anxiety. They were all sort of riddled with this anxiety of what happens when those who are at the bottom of society, those who have been ignored and maligned, specifically economically, finally are kind of have to resort to extreme means in order to be heard and in order to be seen, basically. And it's sort of all those films were sort of riddled with that anxiety. But in the film, you have Arthur Fleck, who is this sort of like incel figure who is in this sort of Oedipal womb like thing, like he's living with his mom and stuff. He's sort of cradled in that thing, and he has 3 father figures. The first dad is the guy at the he works with, who gives him the gun. So it's like the father giving the son the phallus. This is very Freudian. He then uses that phallus in order to sort of be active in the world and be seen, like by shooting the 3 Wall Street guys and stuff. He then is rejected by the father figure who he projects on, which is the talk show host. He's also rejected by Bruce Wayne's dad, who he thinks is his dad. He thinks his life is a comedy of errors. And then he sort of becomes reborn as this almost messianic figure. And the shit that happens to him sort of voids out his own consciousness. And something else takes over, something very archetypical, this sort of pure being of chaos invades him, and it also starts to invade other people. And it sort of reminded me of like the black pill and all of these different pills, these sort of mimetic viruses that spread outwards and invade other people with these ideologies and these sorts of internet bred pathologies and things like that. And the film to me was a lot about how an archetype is sort of pushed outward and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Joker 3 times back to back on my flight to the UK. So
Oh wow.
yeah, it was pretty entertaining. I got better with each watch. So how many times have I seen it now? Probably like 5 or 6.
Probably 5. I think we watched it twice, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I watched it once. I watched it twice even now. Twice now, because we just rewatched it today. But like, I watched it once.
Oh, so that's why you want to talk about it.
And then, I rewatched it today on my little screen, which was nice. But it's one of those films that definitely deserves a cinematic experience. I feel like we saw it at an undisclosed location. That's a phenomenal screening room. But anyway. No, but like I feel like even in your description there, like you kind of are. I feel like mischaracterizing. Okay, I'm sure, but but I'm just saying this is what I've seen a lot in the like the critiques of the media critiques of that film and stuff. Is that they do? I know that's fine. I'm just saying what I've seen in those YouTube videos and in what you just said there as well is like he's this incel figure, and he acted violence on these Wall Street guys. But it's like, well, actually, he's kind of mentally ill. Like he was beaten at 3 years old, and like all of that stuff is then revealed and shown. So like, he's not just like an incel. Like, he's actually got like mental illness, like legitimate mental illness. And then also, like, he didn't just attack those Wall Street guys either. Like, they started like harassing this woman, and then they came to start attacking him. So it was all kind of like self-defense.
I'm not saying it in the sense that I believe he's an incel. I'm saying that that's the archetype that was projected onto this character.
He's the aesthetic of an incel. Like, he's supposed to look like, you're supposed to have that expectation to some extent.
Yeah,
that's definitely it. It was. I feel like it was definitely a media putting that image on it when it's not like necessarily incel. It's more just like lowest, most vulnerable of society is like someone like a single person looking after his also mentally ill mother, like trying to keep shit together to survive in New York or a version or like a mythical New York in the 70s. Like that's a fucking intense, stressful, fucking like vulnerable person in society.
But
no, I know, but it's just like the way that it's always kind of, you know, this incel guy.
No, but then again, whether or not you like it or not, those archetypes exist. The same way the Joker is sort of an embodiment of this sort of Dionysian chaotic ideal, the incel archetype is also something that now exists within the collective unconscious, and people are going to project that on things that sort of tick that criteria in that regard. Even though I don't agree that that's what it was sort of intended to display, people saw that archetype because, you know, a lot of the films that are supposed to have political subtext these days are supposed to star woke queens and yas queens and, you know, neutered male feminists. And this is not that. And it has political subtext. And I think that spooked a lot of people because they were like, wait a minute, how can it be political if there isn't like a queer woman of color as the protagonist? You have this white man and we're supposed to feel sorry for him.
White men aren't the vulnerable members of society.
No,
so
they can't be at all. And
there's no such thing as class.
Yeah, I literally got called, like, I don't know if you saw this because people like screenshotted it and like made a big deal out of it, like making fun of it. But someone tried to like own me on Twitter because I said that, someone was making the argument that why do man caves exist? What do men have to escape from? And I said something about like, oh, you know, man, like, we're still pretending that men don't suffer under capitalism. And this person quote tweeted it like, they invented it, stupid. And like they got clowned on so hard because like they're wrong. It's wrong.
They're outwardly wrong.
Yeah, like men, like okay. Let's say even if men didn't like. Let's say that men are responsible for it, right?
No, they're saying it as if men got into a cigar like smoke-filled room and were like, "Let's devise this system," rather than rather than it being as a result of like historical and materialist forces that sort of culminated in systems like patriarchy and like capitalism. It's not an individual sort of men getting together sort of thing.
But all men individually collaborated to create capitalism and are all equally empowered by it, right? Exactly. That's how it works, right?
It's also a really like neckbeardy response to be like, you want to change society yet? You live in it.
Exactly.
How curious. It's just like, what the fuck?
That.
I see you are using Twitter for iPhone and yet you claim to be a communist?
It's silly though because it's like there definitely is a need for a men's discourse because as flawed as it is, like women have had feminism for 100 years and it's sort of radically expanded the roles that we can occupy. It's also radically expanded our understanding of like our position in society and our position in relation to certain systems as well. Whereas there's no men's discourse that does the same. And I feel like Arthur Fleck's character...
It's called men's rights, Angie. Okay. Haven't you ever been on Reddit at all?
I'd say men's lib is
men's lib is pretty.
It's a bit better.
There's a subreddit called Men's Lib, which is kind of like the less shitty.
Although
version
I'll say that they're a little bit radlibby in terms of like kneeling for feminism a little bit. Which,
there does need to be a men's discourse.
Men's Health called Joe Rogan like fucking toxic or angry or hateful or something along those lines because he had like the conversation about like trans or whatever on one of his fucking podcasts. So like the entire
we need to kill denunciation culture because like I'm more than willing to say like Joe Rogan is probably wrong. I don't really know what he said, but I'm more than willing to accept the idea he's wrong about something. I just feel like it's really weird to like denounce Joe Rogan over being wrong about something or having somebody on his show, because like what it basically effectively does is ends the discourse right there. Like whatever thing that could have been gotten out of that discussion it's gone. Like it's gone forever. Like you don't get any common ground out of that discussion anymore. You don't have, people on one end, like trans people talking to people who, might have specific ideas about science and trying to find some way to intermingle these things. That doesn't happen. It's over the minute it's like, it's about Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan's evil. Like,
yeah,
it's fucking done. Like the conversation's done. Like,
yeah.
All right, well, I guess we're fucking like.
But sort of taking it back to the sort of demonization of the figure of the white man and the figure of the white man as the ultimate arbiter of evil, despite class, despite life experience, despite
the fact that less than 1% of men actually have the kind of power ascribed to men.
Exactly. And also the fact is, it's a problem on the left. The left doesn't know what to do with men. It both lionizes men and diminishes them at the same time. They're either these wonderful sort of beings or they're these awful like arbiters of evil. It's like this constant whiplash that men are put through where they can't just be people, and men are people too, with all of the fragility and frailty and insecurity of any other form of person. And that it's psychologically harmful for men not to have a discourse of their own. And you see the MRA bullshit on the right wing, which is sort of a response to that. And then there are also certain things on the left too that are a response to the lack of discourse rooted in material and also psychological analysis for men, which is something that's
it's a lot more negative on the left.
Well, even then, on the left. It's like you're a man, you're rudderless because you are the fucking embodiment of oppression. Nobody wants
You're the archetype. Like, to go back to archetypes, you're literally the archetype of the problem. Like, you're the evil. You're the puppet master or whatever.
And even if a minority is acting in the same way or wielding the same sort of power that's associated with white men, they get a pass because of their appearance. So this sort of essentialism kind of runs rampant within sort of left discourse in terms of how it treats men. And I feel like it's the reason why when a movie like Joker comes out, nobody's just sort of willing to take it at face value as a story.
Nobody's willing to just start with the dancing themselves.
Yeah. The dance is important because it's also linked to Jungian archetypical imagery, because in Jungian analysis, there's like a lot of emphasis on posture within archetypes and looking at these images of archetypes and seeing how their posture is. And at the beginning of the film, Arthur Fleck has like got this very rigid posture because he's this sort of a dysfunctional male that's out of touch with his sort of Dionysian
hunched
energy.
over.
Yeah, all hunched over. And then when
he's always rubbing his hands together.
No, stop there. No. Ew. I knew you couldn't resist. He's hunched in the same way.
He's a banker. He's handling some form of shekels.
Shush you. He's hunched in the same way that you see the Virgin in the Virgin and Chad memes hunched, which I think is really interesting, because the thing is, you don't. There's a parallel between the Virgin and Chad, and this is, I'm telling you, these archetypes. These. But that's what I'm saying. These archetypes are ancient and they show up so much and so often. Even in the memes that are popular today, you're seeing it show up, because that's the thing. At the beginning of the film, he's rigid and like virgin in the way of a man who's lacking that essence. And then the Chad, in the Chad meme, you see he has this sort of strut and this stride because his Dionysian energy has been released. And that's what the dance is. It's his journey from virgin to Chad, somebody who is now in touch with their vital essence, their verve, rather than the dead person that he was before. And like, I think that that's like a thing on the left, is that we're dead, we're the virgin, we are out of touch with that archetypical energy and that vital life essence. and then we hate on the right wing, even though they're more in touch with that strident essence than we are. And I feel like I mean, Arthur,
you can be confident and wrong. Like that's
you
the
can,
thing.
yeah.
I think, I think that's also like something really important. Like the way that we sort of like, and when I say we, I'm using it very generalized. The sort of like functioning online left. I don't really know what to call it right here, but there's sort of a need to A, have the last word in, and B, be considered right in order for things to be okay. And that isn't confidence. It's the exact opposite of confidence. It's this inability to let anything hang, inability to allow for like any ambiguity or any contradiction. Like if that is the mode you're operating in, the way that you come off, you know, in these sort of political struggles that we're constantly sort of talking about on the podcast, in our videos, etc., it comes off bad. Like just like, oh, well, this is the side that like is really insecure. This is the side that, you know, for lack of a better term, is just kind of like a bunch of pussies.
yeah. But that's why you have to be. There's that other meme, which I'm probably going to discuss in the main show, which is why we need to wrap it up before I spill all the tea here. But like, there's that other meme with the confident like Chad Yes meme, and like that's what we need to be. And the thing is, the right wing, the reason why they're so successful is because they just say yes, and it's easy to just say yes, and that yes is concise. And it's easy, and it's idiotic in the regard that their ideology is so simplistic that it's easier to distill down into mimetic form, whereas ours is so convoluted that we end up not looking confident. So it's like you know the meme. There's like the long neck guy who's like saying all this shit, like, you believe this, and then the Chad is there with his confidence, and he's like, yes. And it's like we need to sort of flip the script, because right now we're the fucking long neck guy saying all this like fucking bullshit, and they're just saying yes. And it's because the right wing has access to archetypical power that we do not, because we've surrendered so much territory, and also the simplicity of being able to tap into these sort of primal lizard brain, self-interest.
But we don't want that. We don't want that. It's funny because we're such an essentializing like force on the internet. We're so ready to essentialize and go down to those sort of base levels. But if you ask what we want the exact opposite. We want something cerebral and thought out, and give me the solution. Give me the exact instructions for how I get to this utopia which you've promised me.
Ravioli, give me the formula.
Yeah,
ravioli,
it's the reason why they fear the Joker so much, because again, Dionysus, or the trickster, any trickster god, Loki, whoever the fuck you want to put in that line of fire, these are entities of pure chaos and unreason, and that's what the left fears the most, is the chaos and the unreason. And
it's funny because the left really buys what Jordan Peterson is selling. Like that's the thing that I wish that it was more noted, like the actual sort of logic, not necessarily all of the details, but the logic that Peterson is selling. The left buys it. Like, we want meaning, we want this stuff, except for we resist on every front just because of partisan reasoning.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, just to wrap up this chat about Jokers and all of this topic. There's a reason why we don't have. There's a reason why we don't have V for Vendetta 2 or the Joker Part 2. What comes next? Because
that's actually coming. They're working on that.
Well, I'm sure that there'll be a big time skip, and it's definitely not going to be. Oh, we figured out policy to make all of these dissatisfied people happy, and now we've got healthcare for everyone.
Oh no, it'll definitely it'll be a continuation for sure.
Because you know what? After the revolution and after that fucking exciting moment of insight, the next bit is fucking boring. The next bit is the shit that Slavoj is just like wants to be invisible. It's the government, it's the bureaucracy, it's the how you figure all of this shit out, and everybody doesn't even want the fucking how is this explained. They just want it to happen. They want to see the insight, and then they want the utopia. They don't want to know the middle section of that because it's boring and fucking just a head fuck. And no one can actually even provide an answer there.
I don't think that's true, because I don't think that's what the movie was essentially about. No, it's not. I think, wait, let me...
Better wrap it up.
I just wanted. I don't think that that's what the movie was essentially.
Fucking hell.
I'm allowed to fucking add on if I want to fucking add on.
Me to wrap it up.
I didn't ask you to wrap it up. I said, let's wrap it up soon. Anyway, I don't think that that's what the movie was essentially about, because it wasn't just about this sort of exciting revolutionary moment. It was about people living in an atomized and alienated system recapturing their spirit. The movie was more of an archetypal kind of protest than a political one in that regard, even though it is tied to the political. It was more about a recapturing of the soul and a recapturing of the spirit from being sort of this dead, alienated being caught like this sort of cog in a wheel that's spinning out of your control. So I don't know if the Zizekian analysis in that regard applies to this film, but we should wrap it up, because then we'll have nothing.
And everything. Zizek's analysis was about masks, and I think that he actually had it wrong.
Yeah, I don't necessarily fully agree with him in that regard either, because I feel like these pieces of art speak to a sort of deeper layer than just the sort of political layer.
Yeah, his analysis involved like people feeling sorry for the Joker because of material circumstances, and he said that that's probably like a bad idea. Like, they make these movies with the idea of, you know, sort of demonstrating what creates a monster, and no, you want, and it was like probably the most simplistic Zizek analysis I've ever heard. And I feel like it was wrong. I don't think it was correct. I mean, that's not to say he's dumb or anything, because, you know, I don't know if he ever actually even watched the movie.
No.
At the time he first elucidated his criticism, he had not watched the movie.
Yeah.
He said that he did.
He doesn't watch those movies until they come out on a torrent with decent quality.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I do not watch the films until they reach the Pirate Bay. At least 1080p DVD screener quality.
Well, guys, thank you for listening to this bonus episode of Low Society. We really, really love and appreciate you guys for all the support. Thank you for keeping us afloat. We really, really are grateful. And we hope you enjoyed this bonus episode. Apologies if we repeat any of this stuff in the main episode. We got a little excited.
This was the warm up. Like,
yeah, this was the warm up.
We're definitely talked in more detail about Joker here, but you know, some of these points will be relevant. So listen to the main episode too, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.